In this video, we're going to test out the features of NotebookLM by Google. Welcome to the Accessibility Guide channel. My name is Sean Jordison, and let's jump into the ring. NotebookLM is a fantastic research tool, and I would even argue it could be used as an accommodation for students with disabilities for educational content. NotebookLM allows you to upload a ton of different resources and generate important study tools from directly within the platform. The first thing we're going to do is log into our NotebookLM account. Let's select Create New Notebook. The first thing it will prompt you to do is add in your resources. So we first need to actually pick a topic that we want to explore NotebookLM with. All right, let's take our two PDFs that we have, two different presentations, and add them as our source. Now, what I love about NotebookLM is that we can actually search the web for other materials to add to this notebook. So let's search the web for the accessibility guide. And we could choose a couple of different ways to actually do the research. We can have it do fast research, or there's also an option for more in-depth research. I went ahead and just did fast research so that we can get some materials in here. So we can actually do view, and then let's unselect all sources, and we could just pick what we have in here. And this is cool. I'm seeing some resources I've never even seen before in here. We can select a couple of them, and we are going to import them as sources for our notebook. Now we also have the ability to do deep research. We can select try deep research, and let's do another scan for PDF accessibility. And this might take a couple minutes, so I'll be right back as soon as the results are here. By the way, I would just note, if you have additional resources that you want to add to this notebook, you can simply select the Add Sources button and add them. You can paste in text, you can put in YouTube links, or even connect it directly to your Google workspace. You can add up to 300 sources on a single notebook. All right, now that the deep research has been completed, we can select the View button to see all the different sources that came in. Now, I don't want to bring in everything. Let's go ahead and deselect the top level button to deselect all of them. But you know, for this example, why not? Let's just include them all. Who cares? Let's import all 51 resources here. Now, the downside, I think, to bringing in this many sources is that it might have conflicting opinions about certain elements. For accessibility specifically, there is a lot of wrong information out there. And so we want to make sure that our content is still accurate. Let's go ahead and give it a minute to make sure all those sources are getting added. And what we can do now is we can actually chat with all 55 sources. So I'm going to ask it a couple of questions, like, can you tell me the fastest way to make my PDF accessible? And it's going to look at all the data we brought in and hopefully prepare a response that makes sense. All right, now it went ahead and provided me some information. It says the fastest way to make a PDF accessible depends on whether or not you have the original file or are working solely with an existing PDF. Interesting. The web page shortcut, migrate the content into HTML. Yeah, that makes sense. It also provides us some questions that we could ask it. For example, which legal frameworks and industry standards govern digital accessibility for various electronic platforms? Let's go ahead and select that. And we've got information on WCAG, PDF UA, authoring tool accessibility guidelines. Interesting. Legal frameworks in the United States. We've got Section 508, ADA, Section 504. It didn't get any for Title II, but that's okay. This is a great research information. Part of the trouble is because I brought in a ton of resources from across the web. So when I was mentioning that there are some differences in opinion around this content, that's being reflected here. But what I want to go over next is the studio feature in NotebookLM. So we can generate an AI podcast based on all of these sources. We can generate a video preview, a mind map, flashcards, a quiz, reports, an infographic. Let's go ahead and try this. I want to do, let's do a mind map. So based on 55 sources, it's going to generate a mind map for us. This should be fun. All right, so the mind map was created, and I think it's in here as a note, and we can click it. And interesting, we've got accessible PDFs 2025 guide. We've got course standards that we can click. Interesting. We've got key differences, remediation process, structural issues, tagging hierarchy. Interesting. And then what it does when I click it is it actually puts it in the chat so that it can find more information. That's really fascinating that it does that. So what it did now is it searched my 55 sources for structural information about tagging hierarchy. We've got the root tag, container and grouping, block level versus character level, heading levels, list structure, artifacting. This is fantastic. I love that it's giving me all of this information. What about flashcards? I'm going to select the edit button on them. Awesome. We can choose the number of flashcards and the level of difficulty. Let's go ahead and select flashcards. And it's going to generate flashcards based on my 55 sources. All right, now that the flashcards have been generated, let's select the PDF flashcards button. And this is awesome. It gives me 59 flashcards here that I could even download. Let's see, for users with visual impairments, what is the primary means of performing tasks in an application? We can select C answer. Keyboard shortcuts are often the only means for them to perform tasks. Wow, then we can have it explain the answer. What is the keyboard command for both JAWS and NVDA to read a PDF's document title? Let's see the answer. Insert T. Wow. Okay. Which two simple keys are used in both JAWS and NVDA to read next in previous lines? The down arrow for the next line and up arrow for the previous line. This is so interesting to me, how good this is. And these are resources that we can just continue to generate. All right, that concludes today's video on how to use NotebookLM by Google as an accommodation for a student with disabilities, or just using it as a deep research tool. If you want to find out how I can help you get accessible, book a meeting with me right now. There's a link below this video. And as always, I can be your champion for inclusion. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you over in the next video.